Chapter 4989. I don't know anything. The cultivator knew that a wise man submits to circumstances. He quickly stood still and expressed his position. LVNI hooked her lips in satisfaction and motioned him to leave. Only the two cousins were left in the room. Lu Sanzong then said, "Cousin, do you think what he said is true? The Miss Feng that the second head of the family is chasing is not the real Miss Feng? I said you have a pig's brain, but you are really a pig." LVNI rolled her eyes and snorted coldly, "You believe what others say?" Lu Sanzong's eyes widened, "You mean, he is lying to us?" Lu Sanzong's face darkened instantly, "How bold of you to deceive us." "I have to." "Shut up." LVNI poked his head angrily, "It's a miracle that you can live until now and even sit in this position with this brain. Aunt knows that I am stupid, so she specially asked you to come and help me." Lu Sanzong rubbed his head and leaned towards LVNI in a fawning manner. "Cousin, tell me clearly. What is going on? Find someone to keep an eye on that person just now. Maybe he is the second head of the family's people. He just wants us to relax our vigilance." LVNI's eyes darkened slightly, and a trace of coldness flashed across her slender eyes. "Moreover, even if what he said is true, it doesn't mean that the idle talk of the two elders is true." LVNI took out a letter from her arms. "The second head of the family will investigate, but I can't." She put the letter beside Lu Sanzong and said, "Miss Feng has an extraordinary relationship with the mysterious overlord. Miss Feng can pretend to be the overlord, but can he? Moreover, Miss Feng not only has a personal guard of the former emperor of the God Emperor accompanying and escorting her, but there are also people from the imperial palace, secretly protecting her." She sneered, "Do you think it is not true?" Lu Sanzong didn't expect that this cousin of his had already done so many things without him knowing anything. He stared at the letter and grinned, "Since that's the case, then this news can be sent to second head." LVNI glanced at him, "You are finally enlightened." Lu Sanzong stuffed the letter back into his arms as his gaze landed on his injured arm. "But, before this, that slut who injured us must be found. He mentioned that woman called Muyu." LVNI's expression sunk as her eyes blazed with anger. But she still spoke rationally, "Get your priorities. Your position is already unstable. Why are you still thinking of finding an enemy? Spread the news of that person being in our hands to the world group or young Miss Feng's ears. Let's lead Miss Feng to our side and intercept Second Master's path." LVNI narrowed her eyes dangerously. "As for that young couple, the order to kill them has already been issued to the entire God realm. Those two won't be able to escape even if they grow wings." Lu Sanzong agreed with his cousin unconditionally. In the dark, LVNI's analysis was as ferocious as a tiger. In the end, it cleared away the suspicions of the two elders. Yiqing Luo almost burst out laughing. Could this be called cleverness can be misled by cleverness? Chapter 4990. Suddenly, the token in Yiqing Luo's bosom shook. She fished out the world group's token and Tong Ziqing's cold voice was transmitted into her mind. "Found him." "Where?" Yiqing Luo asked. Tong Ziqing replied, "Southwest direction, walk straight, the innermost courtyard." She paused for a moment and continued, "There are quite a number of dark void hall cultivators guarding outside the courtyard and it's heavily guarded. It's not easy to save him." Yiqing Luo asked, "Have you gone in?" Tong Ziqing replied, "There are even more people in the room where he's locked up. If I go in now, I might alert the enemy." "Are you certain that the person inside is the person you want to save? The heavily guarded place might not necessarily be Long Yunzhan." Tong Ziqing replied confidently, "I sensed his presence, it's him." "As long as you're certain." Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted as her pink lips curled into a mischievous smile. Her crafty eyes glanced towards Dmo Xian. The man gave a helpless and pampering laugh as he raised his palm and rubbed her little head. "As long as you're happy." The two of them obviously didn't say anything. But they had an incomparable tacit understanding. Little Jiang Ziyi was dazed from what he saw. He wanted to ask but was afraid that if he moved or spoke, he would be discovered by the people from Dark Void Hall. Following that, he heard the young lady intentionally lowering her voice so that he couldn't hear it clearly, but it was still a clear and melodious voice. Ziqing, now you. Directly go and save him, do you have the confidence? Jiang Ziyi's eyes suddenly widened. Save him? Let Sister Qing save him alone. Wasn't this too dangerous? The token remained silent for a moment, as though it was observing the surrounding terrain. Following that, Tong Ziqing said, I'll try. Not try, but... Do you have the confidence? Yiqing Luo's tone was irresistible. After saving him, hang on till we rush over. Tong Ziqing remained silent for some time before spitting out a word, all right. Then. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as she bent over and picked up the little boy on the ground, throwing him into Dmo Xian's arms. Action, begin. Following the young lady's soft tone was heard. That black-haired young lady had already flown out from the darkness. Who's that? LVNI and Lu Sanzong reacted instantly and looked towards the direction where the dark force came from. Then, he saw a young girl with delicate and picturesque features, who seemed like the girl next door, appear out of nowhere. Without any explanation, he took out a shining machete and slashed it at their faces. Bitch, it's you. Lu Sanzong hurriedly dodged to the side and stared at the young girl in disbelief. His face twisted. How did you know about this place? Bang! The exquisite bed was cut into two halves by a single slash of the saber. Lu Sanzong and LVNI quickly separated. It was the middle of the night, and they were in their own territory. The two of them did not even bring their weapons with them. LVNI glanced around and quickly flew toward a nearby desk, attempting to retrieve the sword hanging on the wall behind the desk. A cold light flashed in front of him. The girl swung her machete horizontally. That saber technique was ferocious and disorderly. In any case, it was just a random hack. Forcefully intercepting LVNI's little movements. Since you dare to issue a kill order, then you should be mentally prepared. For me to come knocking on your door. The girl's clear and melodious voice sounded exceptionally cold in the cold night. Her pink lips curled up slightly as the machete in her hand changed unpredictably. The profound ray saber technique merged together, and it was like a huge dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it soared into the sky. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4991. How dare you barge into our turf? Lu Sanzong's face turned green from Yiqing Luo's arrogant actions. He raised his voice and shouted, Guards! Guards! Yiqing Luo scoffed as she speedily moved towards Lu Sanzong. The machete in her hand danced as the profound rays burst out. The huge dragon roared and entangled Lu Sanzong in it. The bounty order has been issued for so long, aren't you anxious to find me? The machete in Yiqing Luo's hand was already close to Lu Sanzong's neck. Her lips twitched as she gave a low laugh. Isn't that why I'm here, to fulfill your wish so that you can be happier? The moment her machete was close to Lu Sanzong's neck. Orderly footsteps were heard outside the door. Following that, a group of patrolling guards rushed in. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she faced those guards, as her hand shook slightly. The sharp blade directly slit Lu Sanzong's neck. Scarlet blood stained the blade. Don't scare me. If you scare me, my hand won't listen to me. Yiqing Luo didn't want to waste any time. She held the hostage in her hands. Her vision looked towards a certain direction. LVNI had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's actions. At the moment she saw her, an ominous premonition arose in her heart. Her woman's intuition made her turn back swiftly. But it was already too late. Behind her, a heavy injury, along with a majestic profound ray, struck her back. LVNI's entire body flew forward. A bam sound was heard. Coincidentally, she fell face down beside Yi Qing Luo's feet. The young lady unreservedly raised her leg and stepped on her back. LVNI wanted to struggle. But the intense pain on her back made her unable to even mobilize the profound energy in her body. She turned her head and looked towards the direction where she was attacked earlier. She saw a bamboo-colored figure, carrying a little boy in his hand, casually stepping into her line of sight. The man's handsome face looked innocent and harmless. A pair of eyes as pure as the ocean was covered with frost. It's that man, not good, not good. Right at this moment, the panicked voice of a profounder resounded from outside. Leader, the western courtyard has been robbed. West courtyard? Lu Sanzong's heart trembled. When that profounder charged over, he noticed that the atmosphere here was strange. Then, he saw the domineering appearance of the two leaders being held against their necks by a young girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes. One of them was holding a knife against their necks, while the other was stepping on them. In that instant, Zhang Xian was stunned. Go to the west courtyard. Go to the west courtyard. At this time, Lu Sanzong could not care less about the machete on his neck. He was so anxious that his whole face turned red. The people of the west courtyard must not be lost. Quick! Send someone to stop them. First Master, what's the rush? The girl's ghostly voice rang in Lu Sanzong's ears. She slightly bent her eyebrows and gently patted his face with the machete. I'll take you two cousins there now. After saying that, she kicked LVNI's body. LVNI let out a blood-curdling scream. LVNI soared into the air. Following that, Yi Qing Luo clasped her neck and lifted her up. Following that, the peach-colored clothes and black-hair young lady. Under the dark night, a magnificent color flashed past and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, that cold and chilly man who seemed to be strolling in his own back garden followed closely behind the young lady. Everyone. Did they not have any sense of existence? Were all the assassins nowadays so arrogant? Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler and collect. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 4992. Why are you still in a daze, Chase? One of them reacted and immediately raised his voice to remind them. Then, a large group of people rushed in the direction of the west courtyard. Yi Qing Luo, who was using her teleportation technique to head towards the southwest direction, casually threw Lu Sanzong to Dmo Xian. Her plan was simple. Tong Zi Qing to save people. She would use the hostage to attract attention. 2 hostages in her hands. The cultivators in the dark void hall would more or less have some scruples. And the bigger the mess she made, the more arrogant she would be. It would be easier for Tong Zi Qing to save them. Her aim was only to save people. She didn't intend to destroy their hall now. Anyway, after tomorrow morning, the dark void hall headquarters would collapse by half. By then, she would create another wave of trouble. At this moment, the dark void hall was instantly in an uproar. The originally dark void hall. In a split second, it was brightly lit. Countless footsteps sounded, one after another. The entire dark void hall was in a mess. On one side, their first master and deputy master had been captured. On the other side, the people whom the higher-ups asked them to guard had been kidnapped. They were King deliberately targeting the Anshu Hall and stirring up trouble. In an instant, wave after wave of guards and cultivators, all gathered towards the west courtyard. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue and looked down at LVNI, whose face was twisted in pain. Her pink lips were frivolous, delicate and picturesque eyebrows, with a young lady's sweet and soft smile. But what entered LVNI's ears was a bone-chilling, malicious voice. TSK, I didn't expect, you guys are quite valued, so many people are here to save you. She tilted her head and blinked her charming eyes, vividly displaying the words pure and innocent, I don't know. If they can save you? Yi Qing Luo's speed was extremely fast. He jumped up and down, trying to avoid being caught by those Xian cultivators. LVNI was kicked by DMO Xian. Kicked to the point that her internal organs were ruptured. The pain was heart-wrenching. Now Yiqing Luo was grabbing her by the throat, swinging around. She almost vomited blood and fainted. Another large wave of Protector Profound practitioners surged over from the front. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision swept a figure, carrying another person, speedily moving towards her direction. It was Tong Ziqing. The person she was carrying on her shoulder was the blue-robed, pale-faced Long Yunzhan, whose eyes were closed. At this moment, Long Yunzhan's hair was messy. Even his robes were tattered. Obviously, it wasn't easy being locked up here. Yiqing Luo's vision swiftly swept past Long Yunzhan's exposed skin. When he didn't see any particularly serious injuries, he retracted his gaze that was gradually turning cold. As long as they were rescued, it would be fine. She lowered her eyes and looked at LVNI, who was on the verge of death. While Tong Ziqing was rushing over, Lin Fan's expression changed. She said, "Take him away first. Yun and I will stay behind." Tong Ziqing was stunned for a moment. She glanced sideways at the motionless man whose eyes were tightly shut. Clenching his teeth, he carried the man and passed by Yiqing Luo, flying towards the outer walls of the Dark Void Hall headquarters. Suddenly, a miserable shriek was heard. Those guards who were chasing after Tong Ziqing suddenly paused. Their gazes all turned towards the direction of the miserable shriek. A young lady in peach robe with jet black hair held a biting cold blade in her hands, unknowingly stuck to LVNI's neck. Fresh blood was flowing down along the blade. That miserable shriek was made by LVNI. Chapter 4993. Aya, there are too many people, I accidentally. My hand shook. The young lady blinked her apologetic eyes carelessly. Please don't scare me if I'm not careful, your two heads will fall to the ground. The young lady's voice was tender and soft, her curved eyebrows were lovely like a painting. Just looking at the surface. It was really unexpected that this young lady would do such a cruel thing as what she said. He ran away. Someone noticed that Tong Ziqing had already carried someone and leaped over the wall. Immediately, someone wanted to chase over there. Don't move. The young lady's soft voice rippled with laughter. Her fingertips sighed lightly. The sharp blade patted on LVNI's neck. I'm afraid the moment you move. You're together? At this moment, how could the Dark Void Hall's guards not understand that these two parties were completely in cahoots? No, we can't let anyone take that guy from the West Courtyard away. The people above will definitely kill us. Chase. Quickly chase. No. First Master and Deputy Master are in their hands, if they really hurt the two masters. If we don't chase, he will run away. The profound practitioners guarding them were thrown into chaos. At this moment, Yiqing Luo's sharp ears twitched. The air was filled with the sound of several breaths cutting through the air. Her brows frowned, suddenly raised her eyes to look at Tong Ziqing on the wall. Ziqing, be careful. At the same time, an arc shadow swept over the top of the wall. The majestic and ferocious profound chi exploded with a loud bang. Bang. Gravel flew. A figure was faintly discernible in the dust. Under the bright lights. That man stood on the wall, his long robe fluttered along with the strong wind, making a sound. Third Elder. The guard profound practitioners shouted excitedly. The person standing on top of the wall, wasn't it? The Jiang family aristocrat's helper, Third Elder Jiang? Over there. There's still Fourth Elder. Tong Ziqing at the moment when Yiqing Luo cried out in alarm. Instinctively, he had already jumped off the wall to avoid the incoming attack. However, the residual power of the boundless profound light and the fact that she was carrying a person on her shoulder caused her to stagger a little when she landed. Immediately after that, another overbearing profound light attack came right at him. Tong Ziqing's face turned pale, and she immediately retreated 2 steps. He had already retreated too. Within the Anshu hall, there were countless profound practitioners who had rushed over upon hearing the news. Ziqing, Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as her half-squinted eyes refracted a piercingly cold glint. She immediately dragged Lvni and rushed to Tong Ziqing's side, protecting her behind her. There were layers upon layers of people surrounding them. 3rd Elder Jiang and 4th Elder Jiang slowly walked towards them. The crowd parted to make a path. Their momentum was extremely mighty. The 2 elders' vision fell onto Yiqing Luo without blinking. As though he was examining Yiqing Luo. It was as if he wanted to see through her body and into her soul. Yiqing Luo recalled what she had heard in Lu Sanzong's room. These 2 elders' blind guesses actually suspected that she was Feng family's Miss, Feng Qing Luo. Now, they probably wanted to confirm their guess. Yiqing Luo's picturesque brows slightly narrowed. Suddenly she raised her hand and blocked in front of Tong Ziqing, and Long Yunzhan raised her brows and looked at the 2 elders. Such a small matter, I didn't expect it to alarm the 2 elders. It blocked the restless gazes and impulses of the surrounding people. Tong Ziqing stared blankly at the delicate back that was right in front of her. The girl's back was very straight. It seemed that as long as she was around, nothing in this world could hurt them in the slightest. This feeling, it was as if, just like how he was once protected by Yiqing Luo. Tong Ziqing's eyes started to heat up for no reason. She hugged Long Yunzhan tightly as she took a deep breath, stabilizing her restless emotions as she followed behind Yiqing Luo. Young lady. 3rd Elder Jiang stared behind Yiqing Luo, at that pale-faced Long Yunzhan who had his eyes tightly shut. What is your relationship with them? That tone was filled with suspicion and questioning. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. I'm a person who pays particular attention to the word trust. When I'm entrusted by someone, I'll do what I'm asked to do. Like Trash 7th Missy, Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Trash 7th Missy, Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Chapter 4995. Who asked you to do it? 3rd Elder Jiang's brows sunk even deeper as he squinted his eyes to examine Yiqing Luo. Young lady, do you know who he is, to dare to come to the Dark Void Hall to create trouble? Yiqing Luo curled her lips indifferently. Anyway, I am someone who is being chased by the Dark Void Hall. Someone asked me to come to the Dark Void Hall to kidnap someone. If I can give you trouble, why should I not come? The young lady's tone was full of provocation and ridicule. Her evil and arrogant attitude was totally without the slightest fear and vigilance of being surrounded by countless of Dark Void Hall's guards. 3rd Elder Jiang, the guarding profound practitioners. What she said was so reasonable that they actually had no way to refute. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a charming smile. As for who asked me to do it, Elder doesn't have to worry about it, now. You just need to tell me, who do you want to choose to let live? Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Tong Ziqing. Not knowing why. Tong Ziqing actually understood Yiqing Luo's meaning. She carried Long Yunzhan and followed behind Yiqing Luo. Then, she followed Yiqing Luo and passed through countless people's encirclement as she slowly walked towards Dmo Xian. No one dared to stop them along the way. The 2 elders also stared at them fiercely, but neither spoke nor made any moves. Until Yiqing Luo walked to Dmo Xian's side. 3 people, a child and an unconscious man, stood together. He was surrounded by 3 layers of guarding profound practitioners. Both sides were silent for a long time. 4th Elder Jiang, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Little girl, do you really think that you can leave safely by using those 2 pieces of trash?" 4th Elder Jiang looked more calm and gloomy compared to 3rd Elder Jiang. The moment he opened his mouth, his tone was full of coercion. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as her long and charming eyes squinted. Her smile was still that charming and lovely. However, the flowing light in his eyes revealed a bit of bewitching evilness. "At least for now, you don't dare to touch us, right?" The young lady's soft voice was languid and careless. Heh. Fourth Elder Jiang snorted softly. His sinister and ruthless gaze carried a hint of indecipherable mockery as he said, "But young lady, you don't even know that person is one of us, yet you want to take him away. Aren't you afraid of inviting a wolf into your house?" His words were full of threats and ruthlessness. His words were filled with a lofty attitude. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. Suddenly, she seemed to understand the deeper meaning of Fourth Elder Jiang's words. Her eyes narrowed. She immediately turned around and said, "Zi Qing, put him down. Wife, be careful." At the same time, her voice overlapped with a low and mellow voice. The man's slender and strong arms suddenly clasped her waist and pulled her into his broad embrace. Bang! A sword ray left countless sword marks on the ground. The entire courtyard exploded with a loud bang. "Leader," the woman's cold and panicked voice rang out. The voice was very weak, and it sounded like it was seriously injured. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted even tighter as she raised her eyes and exchanged a glance with Dmo Xian. The two of them speedily flew towards Tong Zi Qing's direction. Earlier Yi Qing Luo's reminder didn't make Tong Zi Qing put Long Yunzhan down. And at that moment, a blue long sword suddenly appeared in Long Yunzhan's hand as he slashed out numerous profound rays. Tong Zi Qing was the closest. She was directly slashed by that sword ray, leaving several wounds. "Trash seventh young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love." "Trash seventh young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4996. This wasn't the end yet. While Tong Zi Qing was half squatting on the ground, feeling weak and powerless, Long Yunzhan raised his long sword once again as he pressed forward. Dong! Profound rays collided. The machete in Yi Qing Luo's hand clashed with the long sword. Profound waves vibrated, as though layers upon layers of ripples were spreading out in the air. Yi Qing Luo's hand turned slightly numb. She lowered her head as her other hand swiftly picked up Tong Zi Qing, giving up on the battle with Long Yunzhan as she leapt backwards. Under the profound rays, Yi Qing Luo saw Long Yunzhan, who was standing upright. But the current him was apparently not in his normal state. Even if he waved his sword to attack, that pair of tightly shut eyes had not even opened. The current Zhan. Was he still controlled by the people from the Palace of Darkness? Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. Long Yunzhan's movement. It made Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian's original advantage disappear. Lu Sanzong and LVNI had already been carried back into their protective circle by the profound practitioners who were guarding them. On the other hand, Long Yunzhan stood there with his back straight. The long sword in his hand was glowing with a dazzling blue light. Group leader. Tong Zi Qing looked at Long Yunzhan as her eyes were filled with pain. Towards the wounds on her body, she totally didn't feel any pain. Yi Qing Luo pressed on Tong Zi Qing's shoulder as she squinted her eyes and stared at Long Yunzhan. "Are you their men, or the person you want to save, is their men?" Yi Qing Luo's question was intentionally asked out. After all, those two elders were still suspicious of her identity. If her performance was too calm, wouldn't it arouse their suspicions? No. Tong Zi Qing's eyes were scarlet red as she raised her head and shouted, "We're not their men. Group leader is from the World Group, he only belongs to the World Group." Her fingers clenched tightly as the green veins popped out. "It's the Palace of Darkness. Group leader, which is why this happened." "Heh, are you still lying to yourself?" Fourth Elder Jiang gave a low mocking laugh. "What the World Group? It's merely a tool used by Master." He suddenly paused, as though he had thought of something, and laughed. "Speaking of which, your group leader is Master's man, then, you're the World Group, is actually also considered as Master's men." "You." Tong Zi Qing's expression turned increasingly cold as her pair of cold and beautiful eyes seemed as though it was about to burn with rage. "Are the World Group will forever belong to the World Group. You are a bunch of dogs of the Dark Palace." Sooner or later, Qing Luo and the Overlord will consign you to eternal damnation. Ha ha ha. You're even placing your hopes on the person that you all worship like a god. Fourth Elder Jiang ridiculed. She's now the young miss of the Feng family that's high and mighty in the divine realm. Do you know the Feng family? That's the clan of the previous God Emperor, the acting God Emperor's clan, the clan of the God Emperor. Right now, in front of her high and mighty Miss Feng, how would she still have the leisure to care about you, the shame of the lower realms? Your existence is a disgrace to her. Bam! Suddenly, a deafening explosion resounded like a thunderclap. The blue sword glow swept past streaks of sword waves. Like a hurricane, it directly pressed towards Fourth Elder Jiang. It also interrupted Fourth Elder Jiang's ridicule. Fourth Elder Jiang didn't have time to react to the sudden attack. He was met with a sword wave. He abruptly retreated 2 steps as his malicious eyes stared fiercely at the direction where the sword force was pressing from. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4997. The blue-robed dark-haired young man's sleeves fluttered in the wind. His messy long hair, which was not tied up, swayed along with the hurricane. Long Yunzhan. Fourth Elder Jiang stared at the blue-robed dark-haired young man in disbelief as he spoke in a hoarse voice. You dare to lay a hand on me? The young man's hand which was holding the sword moved slightly. The profound glow encircled his entire body. Everyone's vision was concentrated on him. The young man slowly raised his head. A chilly gaze, as though it was covered with thousands of years of frost, shot over. He opened his eyes. Group leader. Tong Ziqing also saw Long Yunzhan's opened eyes as her heart started to race. Did this mean that he had regained consciousness? But that youth, who was sealed in ice for thousands of miles, did not even look at her. He just stared straight at Fourth Elder Jiang coldly. The chill in his eyes seemed as though he wanted to tear Fourth Elder Jiang into pieces. Immediately, the young man raised his hand and the majestic profound glow exploded as the sword wave neared Fourth Elder Jiang, carrying endless murderous intent. Fourth Elder Jiang's heart tightened. Long Yunzhan, do you know what you're doing? Bam bam bam, the surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual chi, under the profound glow, started to form layers of ripples. It surged forth violently. Long Yunzhan's attack didn't stop because of Fourth Elder Jiang's words. The blue light was as fast as lightning as it broke through Fourth Elder Jiang's defense as the long sword fell. No one is allowed to slander her. An icy cold voice was spat out from the blue-robed dark-haired young man's mouth. Every single word was heard clearly. Fourth Elder Jiang's expression was as dark as charcoal. Just because he said something bad about Qing Luo. This lad just broke through his control and made a move on him. How loyal was this lad to Qing Luo? So that when he was unconscious, his body's natural reaction had already made a subconscious action to protect her? Group leader? Has group leader regained consciousness? Hearing Long Yunzhan's words of protection, Tong Ziqing's eyes suddenly lit up as her tone was filled with agitation. Then, he dragged his injured body towards Long Yunzhan. A fair hand pressed down on her shoulder, stopping her from moving. Behind him, the girl's soft voice came, "Don't go over, he's not awake." But he just. If he wasn't sober, how could he have attacked Fourth Elder Jiang? Qing Luo's curly long lashes drooped slightly as her heart was deeply shaken. Long Yunzhan had actually slandered her because of Fourth Elder Jiang. He broke free from Fourth Elder Jiang's control. However, this was only Long Yunzhan's instinct. This was not his behavior when he was sober. He had to bring Long Yunzhan back. If they left Long Yunzhan here, that would only make the people from the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to cause more damage to Long Yunzhan. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Fourth Elder Jiang. If you want to sever that elder's control over your friend, you'll have to deal with that elder first. Now, Long Yunjian making a move against 4th Elder Jiang was the best opportunity. That was why Long Yunjian attacked Tong Ziqing and them. It was all because of 4th Elder Jiang. She had just noticed it. 4th Elder Jiang seemed to be controlling something in his hands. Yiqing Luo raised the machete in her hand as she flew towards 4th Elder Jiang's direction. 4th Elder Jiang was avoiding Long Yunjian's attack. His peripheral vision took a glimpse. Another piercingly cold silvery blade was coming towards him. His expression sunk. 3rd Elder. Chapter 49-98. Yiqing Luo's machete had yet to come close. From the side, a burst of overbearing profound light swept over. Profound ripples spread out, continuously returning in the air. It was as if it wanted to devour everything in its surroundings. 3rd Elder Jiang smiled sinisterly at Yiqing Luo. Young lady, you're still too inexperienced. 3rd Elder Jiang's attack was extremely terrifying and full of murderous intent. Yiqing Luo moved sideways to avoid it. She waved the silver machete in her hand, her lips curled into a cold arc. 3rd Elder Jiang, you're not my target. So, let my husband play with you. She leaped backward. Behind her was a man in a bamboo-colored brocade robe and jade belt. His face was green and immature, like an ignorant playboy. He leaped to the front of the young lady. The invisible hurricane was fluttering. The man's beautiful figure stood against the wind. Just standing there. It made people feel fear. 3rd Elder Jiang had no time to retract his attack and directly went against the man in brocade robe. A yellow-haired kid who was still wet behind the ears. Even if he was talented. That's just an inexperienced brat. How dare he put on an act in front of him? 3rd Elder Jiang sneered, his palm strike rolled up a more vigorous profound chi. Ah Yun, be careful, don't kill him. At the same time, he heard the young lady's soft and sarcastic laughter. This was like the fuse that ignited 3rd Elder Jiang's inner anger. Yiqing Luo glanced at 3rd Elder Jiang, who was rushing towards Dmo Xian. She curled her lips into a smile. Then her figure flashed and she had quickly rushed towards 4th Elder Jiang. That idiot. 4th Elder Jiang could not help but curse when he saw that 3rd Elder Jiang had actually fought with another man while protecting him. 4th Elder Jiang, the young lady's soft voice floated into his ears. Immediately after, he saw a peach-red robe flashed past his eyes. The young lady's machete had already reached his neck. 4th Elder Jiang's face darkened as he stared at Yiqing Luo with a treacherous gloominess. He couldn't detect the slightest fluctuation of profound chi from this young lady. There was no way to identify the opponent's profound grade. This situation, there was only one explanation. This girl was wearing some sort of treasure that could conceal her aura. Someone who knew how to hide his aura. There had to be some special reason. 4th Elder Jiang looked at the girl with an even more probing gaze. Swish, while 4th Elder Jiang was deep in thought, in the air, there was the sound of a sword cutting through the air. It was unknown when Long Yunjian had charged towards 4th Elder Jiang with his sword in hand. Her opened azure eyes were like stagnant water, without the slightest fluctuation or ripple. His face was expressionless, but there was only a murderous intent. Long Yunjian. 4th Elder Jiang gritted his teeth and growled Long Yunjian's name. He narrowly avoided Long Yunjian's sword wave. Then, he raised his hand and was about to touch the thing in his hand. A cold light flashed. 4th Elder Jiang stared in disbelief at the direction where the cold light came from. That petite girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes actually directly faced Long Yunjian's sword wave. The blue profound light slammed heavily into the girl's body like a tidal wave. However, the girl didn't care. She directly broke through the sword wave. In a blink of an eye, she had already appeared in front of him. That biting cold shining big machete flashed past his eyelids. Ah, 4th Elder Jiang cried out miserably. His wrist was cut by the blade as blood gushed out and dyed the blade red. An item fell from his palm. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4999. That was a human-shaped puppet. The size of a palm. It was meticulously carved from the best quality wood. The puppet had a nose and eyes, even the clothes on it were lifelike. Yi Qing Luo only took one look and she could tell. This puppet was carved on. Who else could it be if it wasn't Long Yunzhan? 4th Elder Jiang used this to control Long Yunzhan. Yi Qing Luo's sleeves fluttered as she swept the puppet into her palm. You, return the thing to me. 4th Elder Jiang's face sunk when he saw that. He couldn't care less about his bleeding hand as he struck towards Yi Qing Luo, trying to get the puppet back. Bam! An extremely thick profound wave seemed to have crossed the mountains and rivers as it pressed forward. 4th Elder Jiang had yet to get close to Yi Qing Luo. He was slammed onto the ground by an invisible profound wave. As soon as 4th Elder Jiang turned his head, he saw 3rd Elder Jiang lying on the ground, moaning in pain. 4th Elder Jiang's face turned pale as he looked towards the direction where the profound wave came from. He saw that man who was originally fighting with 3rd Elder Jiang, was now holding the seriously injured Yi Qing Luo expressionlessly. That pair of pure and innocent, sapphire-like eyes. But it seemed as though it was gathering a storm. He just stood there, hugging the young lady without moving. His entire body emitted a terrifying and vast aura. Just indifferently, he swept a glance over them. That gaze was as though he was looking at a corpse. It brought along an invisible horrifying pressure. It was shocking. 3rd Elder Jiang and 4th Elder Jiang's hearts suddenly trembled as they stared at Dmo Xian in disbelief. Who was this man? How could he have such a powerful ability? Bring him away. The man's deep and icy cold voice spoke out indifferently. He was obviously looking at Yi Qing Luo. But Tong Zi Qing knew that this sentence was meant for her. She immediately went forward and carried the motionless Long Yunzhan onto her body. Long Yunzhan wasn't very cooperative. The man directly grabbed the young lady's hand which was holding the puppet and squeezed hard. Long Yunzhan's stiff body suddenly turned soft as he closed his eyes and fell onto Tong Zi Qing's shoulder. Commander. Tong Zi Qing cried out worriedly. He won't die. Dmo Xian interrupted coldly. Let's go. In the surroundings, there were more than 100 profound practitioners guarding them. At this moment, no one dared to take even half a step forward. Looking at that young and harmless man. To be more precise, it would be more appropriate to describe him as a teenager. However, he only managed to touch the other party's aura. It was as if their bodies were nailed to the ground. Unable to move. He could only look on helplessly as he slowly left with the black-haired girl in his arms. Until the person who had barged into their headquarters completely disappeared before their eyes. After the suffocating pressure disappeared, Yi Qingtang's eyes widened. Only then did everyone feel as though their lives had been saved. Trash. A bunch of trash. 3rd Elder Jiang was so angry that he gnashed his teeth and roared. This roar affected the wounds on his body, and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood. 4th Elder Jiang wore a dark expression as he allowed the guards to lift them up. The 3rd Elder of Jiang clan was still throwing a tantrum and cursing. 4th Elder Jiang was having a headache from all the ruckus as he squinted at 3rd Elder Jiang and spoke in a cold voice. What are you shouting for? They are trash, aren't you trash as well? What do you mean? 3rd Elder Jiang flew into a rage when he was scolded. 4th Elder Jiang's eyes sunk. Haven't you noticed? That young man. His ability is not something that you and I can match up to. 7th Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5000. 3rd Elder Jiang's face was livid, but he didn't say anything. He had fought with that man before. No one knew better than him exactly how terrifying that man's strength was. Perhaps it was out of his reach, perhaps even the 1st Elder would personally take action. None of them could defeat him, Third Elder Jiang clearly remembered. When the man looked at him, it was as if he was looking at an inanimate object. Clearly, that face, he looked innocent and harmless. Those sapphire-like eyes were also pure and innocent. But it happened. But it was precisely this kind of illusion that made people relax their vigilance. Deceived him. Third Elder Jiang didn't even see the man move at all. In the next moment, he was already lying on the rain. Then, the man looked down at him without any warmth. Third Elder Jiang was absolutely sure. If that man wanted to, they could easily kill him. Yes, apart from the master of the Dark Palace. This was the first person who had ever shocked him. That man, Fourth Elder Jiang's expression darkened even further. If there's someone so young and so powerful in the realm of the gods, how could we not have heard of him? That man's name is Chao Yun, Chao, in the god realm. Which family with the surname Chao could raise such a profound practitioner with unfathomable strength? The two elders looked at each other. They could see a trace of probing in each other's eyes. Go and investigate. Investigate the identities of the two Raos. Yiqing Luo was carried by Dmo Xian as they sped forward in the dark. Tong Ziqing was carrying the small one and dragging the big one. Very quickly, he was left behind by Dmo Xian. The night was dark and overcast. Not even a single star could be seen. The atmosphere was depressing and depressing. Yiqing Luo looked at Tong Ziqing, who was getting further and further away. She wanted to ask the man to slow down. But when she looked up, she saw the man's cold face. In the end, Coward Four shut his mouth. Anyway, with that scare from Dmo Xian just now. Third Elder Jiang and Fourth Elder Jiang were also lying on the ground, heavily injured. He shouldn't be able to catch up to them. Tong Ziqing would also be fine. Yiqing Luo comforted herself in this way. So he didn't say anything. The aura emitted from the man was very cold. It was so cold that even Yiqing Luo, who was in the man's arms, shivered. She shuddered. Nan Ren lowered his eyebrows. Her black eyes, which were as deep and bright as obsidian, stared at him. His eyes seemed to be surging with raging waves that he was trying his best to restrain. Yiqing Luo had goosebumps all over her body from being stared at, her hands clutching the sleeves of the man's robe, constantly deliberating on what words to say to break this strange atmosphere. He thought for a while. He didn't think of any suitable words. On the contrary, Dmo Xian's deep eyes stared straight at her and asked, "Does your wound hurt?" Yiqing Luo. Wound? Yiqing Luo had not expected him to be concerned about her the moment he opened his mouth. After a brief moment of shock, the young girl's heart suddenly softened. She curled her pink lips and shook her head at Dmo Xian. "It doesn't hurt." "If it doesn't hurt, why are you shaking?" The man didn't seem to believe it. Yiqing Luo. Could it be that she was frightened by his cold aura? But looking at the man's gloomy and inexplicable deep eyes, that kind of burning stare at her, as if she didn't give an answer, he wouldn't let her off. She simply hardened her heart and tugged the man's robe, complaining in a soft voice, "You scared me." Chapter 5001. The young lady's tender and soft voice had a tinge of grievance and coquettishness. It was obviously a deliberately pretended voice. It wasn't that the man couldn't tell. But under the young lady's accusatory soft voice, he still softened his imposing manner. "How did I scare you, The man's brows raised slightly, his mellow voice was filled with an inexplicable magnetism. Especially the last note. Like a hook, it slowly hooked Yiqing Luo's heart. Yiqing Luo almost couldn't hold it as she pretended to be aggrieved. She immediately kept the expression on her face as she bit her pink lips and continued to complain in a tender and soft voice, "You're angry, I'm scared. If you really know how to be scared, then that would be great." Dmo Xian poked her head unhappily. But the young lady cried out softly, "Ouch, it hurts." She was so shocked that she squatted in midair. Following that, he immediately rubbed the place where the young lady was poked. What's the matter? Are you hurt here too? He gently rubbed the young lady's head and his tone was so gentle that water could be squeezed out of it. But in response to him, was the young lady's soft laughter. Dmo Xian's brows sunk slightly as the palm that was rubbing the young lady's head stopped. His slender fingers slid down and clasped the young lady's chin. His deep and serene pupils collided with the young lady's charming eyes. Is it funny? His voice was low and deep, and there was a hint of dignity in his tone. Yiqing Luo decisively shut her mouth, looking at the man's expressionless and extremely stern face. She was terrified once again as she mumbled softly, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I won't laugh, it's not funny at all. Wrong? Dmo Xian sneered, you really know that you're wrong? A sinister smile appeared on his face. Yiqing Luo was so shocked that she trembled. She immediately widened her eyes and blinked her eyes as she looked at Dmo Xian innocently, really, I really know that I'm wrong. Then tell me, where did you go wrong? Dmo Xian's brows sunk slightly as his words were filled with coldness. Yiqing Luo. She absent-mindedly licked her pink lips. Her fair hands slowly tugged at Rao's sleeves. That delicate and charming face had a hint of pitifulness to it. I really know that I was wrong. With a soft voice, she grabbed the hand that was holding her chin and buried her head in Nan Rao's arms. I shouldn't have put my body in danger. Little by little, she tightened her grip on the man's large palm. In her own way, she soothed the man's restless breath. My mistake was that I shouldn't have welcomed Long Yunzhan's sword wave and charged at 4th Elder Jiang, knowing that he couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. I was wrong. I shouldn't have let myself get hurt. An even bigger mistake, she raised her head bit by bit. Her pair of long and narrow eyes were like glass that had been baptized. They were bright and dazzling, and they even rippled with a sparkling light. I shouldn't have worried you. After the girl finished. Slowly, he inserted his fingers between Nan Rao's fingers. They interlocked their fingers. Can I apply for a chance to explain? The young girl tilted her head as she looked around with her charming eyes blinking, as though she was begging. Earlier when the young girl's delicate and soft posture was complaining and using that affectionate and sincere voice to admit that he was wrong. The man's vicious aura had already dissipated cleanly. Now that he saw the young girl in such a delicate and charming look. How could the man maintain that straight face? Chapter 5002. In the end, he had no choice but to pretend to be fierce, but in actual fact, he was filled with helplessness and adoration. I'd like to see what kind of flowers you can explain. I can't explain flowers. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes and said seriously, but, if Ah Xian wants flowers, I can give them to you. Don't change the topic. Dmo Xian pinched her face, explain properly. Yiqing Luo immediately put on a serious look, Zhan is my contracted human dragon. His attacks towards me will all be reduced by half. Moreover, when I rushed over, I conjured an enchantment to block off those sword waves. I'm not seriously injured, really. The young lady put up 3 fingers with a serious look. Then you're still injured. The man was expressionless, unable to tell whether he was happy or angry. I can jump, I'm really fine. In order to prove that she was fine, Yiqing Luo even intended to struggle out of Dmo Xian's arms, hoping to perform a jump. The man's slender and strong arm locked her waist tightly. His tone was cold. If you move again, don't move anymore. Wow, you're so fierce. The young lady complained in a tender manner. Her slender hand grabbed the man's arm. You actually dare to be fierce to me? Dmo Xian. Wasn't she just fooling around? How did he become fierce? Although he clearly knew that this young lady was deliberately fooling around, to not let him be calculative, she deliberately put herself in danger to do so. But when he saw the young lady's pure as water, as if there were layers of ripples in her charming eyes. And that, the fake accusation and grievance in her eyes couldn't be any more fake. In the end. Softened. He had really lost to her. Dmo Xian raised his hand, his slender fingers fell on the young lady's delicate fair face. Although it was something to disguise. But that touch was extremely real. He slightly tightened his strength. Pinched the young lady's face. This pinch was not merciful. The young lady's fair face instantly turned red. Ji Wuhua's disguise technique could be called face-changing. So even if this face was added with something to disguise, that pinch by the man was Yiqing Luo's real flesh. The young lady's eyes widened in pain. Punishment. The man let go of her and stared at her blushing cheeks. Then, he raised his hand and touched her face, feeling sorry for her. However, he still maintained his cold tone. If you know pain, then remember that you are a person protected by a man. You don't need to put yourself in danger. Yiqing Luo harumphed as she pushed his chest. Men are all big pig trotters. You're fierce to me and still want to hit me. There's no way to live on. Even if you can't, you still have to. You can only live with me. Dmo Xian held the young lady's slender hand. Yiqing Luo saw that the man no longer had the intention to get angry. Her delicate and picturesque brows also restrained the playful emotions. She played with the man's slender fingers and pursed her lips. You were so domineering just now. You tortured Elder Jiang San and Elder Jiang Si like that. Aren't you afraid that they'll suspect you? Those two people were very good at making wild guesses. Just a casual conversation while drinking had almost stripped off her and Dmo Xian's disguise. Now Dmo Xian's move. A person like Fourth Elder Jiang. He was afraid that they would suspect Dmo Xian's identity. After all, Dmo Xian's strength could be described as reverse. The main reason why the Jiang family's aristocrats cooperated with the secluded palace was because they wanted to be superior. At this moment, such a powerful enemy had appeared. How could Fourth Elder Jiang not take it to heart? Chapter 5003. To be able to easily and effortlessly torture him and Third Elder Jiang to the ground without any chance to retaliate. If he was infuriated and targeted the Jiang family's aristocrats, their Jiang family's aristocrats would definitely suffer losses. Fourth Elder Jiang would definitely investigate his identity as Chao Yun. Although this identity was under the arrangement of the imperial palace, it was basically flawless. Both of their identities were real, no matter how they investigated. But a fake was after all a fake. If they really found out something based on Secluded Palace's vigilant character, they would probably suspect her and Dmo Xian's identity. No way. Dmo Xian's brows remained unchanged as his eyes sunk. If I'm not willing, no one will be able to find out anything. Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her head as her hands clenched into fists under her chin. Her long and narrow eyes blinked as it radiated a bright ray of light. A look of worship. Ah Xian, when you say this sentence, it's simply exploding. The young lady was smitten as she smiled like a flower. In the depths of his eyes, Bu Ling's bright light was like the brightest star. She stared so hard that Dmo Xian's heart was in a mess. His slender and powerful arms suddenly tightened around her as he pressed her into his embrace. His deep and husky voice made the ray in Yiqing Luo's eyes even more intense. I really don't know what to do with you. By the time they returned to Jiang Ziyi's slums, Tong Ziqing and the rest were already in the slums. Upon seeing them back, Tong Ziqing got up and looked at Yiqing Luo. Miss Muyu, please. Please save our group leader. Long Yunzhan was lying flat on a pile of withered straw as his expression was extremely painful, as though he was extremely unstable. The profound qi on him was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, in a mess. Tong Ziqing's heart was aching. From this young couple bringing them to rescue Long Yunzhan safe and sound. Tong Ziqing had already placed all her hopes on this young couple. Yiqing Luo walked over quickly as she half squatted in front of Long Yunzhan. She pressed on Long Yunzhan's wrist as she checked his pulse. Long Yunjan's pulse was very messy. So weak that she couldn't feel any pulse at all. Yi Qing Luo frowned. Old man Sung's voice came from his mind. He must have used up all the dark force in his body when he was unconscious. If Venerable D hadn't stopped him in time, I'm afraid, Old man Sung didn't finish his words. But Yi Qing Luo knew what his unfinished words were. Yi Qing Luo loosened her hand and took out the human-shaped puppet, asking in her heart, "What is this thing? Will it help Ajahn?" Witchcraft puppet. Old man Sung softly sighed. That witchcraft goo has always been nurtured in his body. This witchcraft goo doll is similar to that witchcraft goo, a medium that allows them to sense each other. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Then, through this witchcraft puppet, are we able to draw out the witchcraft in Ajah's body? We still have to find the person who planted the goo as soon as possible. Old man Sung was silent for a while before saying this. The person who planted the goo, an aged face surfaced in Yi Qing Luo's mind. In the Earth domain. The Gu family's people wanted to bring Elder Wu and Wu Che away. But the World Group's brothers originally guarded them tightly. But in the end, the Gu family's people managed to save Wu Che and Elder Wu. To cure the Gu, she had to make a trip to the Gu family. But the situation in the God realm was urgent. The longer she dragged on, the higher the chances of the counterfeit being discovered. Chapter 5004. If she were to bring Long Yunjan over to the witchcraft aristocratic family now, and back to God Realm, God Realm would probably have a change of owners. By then, secluded palace would be even harder to deal with. Is it that the venom in group leader's body has worsened? Tong Zi Qing saw Yi Qing Luo's expression turning ugly bit by bit as her heart started to turn anxious. That cold and elegant little face was now covered with worry. There's something in his body which is suppressing that witchcraft venom. Plus this thing is in my hands, so his venom will be suppressed temporarily. Yi Qing Luo stood up. Following that, she gazed deeply at Tong Zi Qing. Are you really sincere in wanting to save him? Amen. Tong Zi Qing's eyes lit up. You have an idea, right? I indeed have an idea. Yi Qing Luo passed the World Group's token back to her. Are you able to contact the brothers in the World Group? Tong Zi Qing went into a slight blank as she looked at the palm-sized token in her hands. Yes. Contact them and ask them to come over. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Long Yunjan. If it's just you alone, not only will you not be able to save him, you might even lose yourself. Tong Zi Qing originally wanted to reject when she mentioned contacting those brothers in the World Group. The expression on her face had an unnatural expression which was hard to detect. But when she heard Yi Qing Luo's last sentence, she seemed to have made up her mind as she clenched her fists tightly. All right, I'll go contact them. Saying that, Tong Zi Qing walked out of the cave in quick steps. Just when she reached the cave entrance, Yi Qing Luo suddenly opened her mouth. Zi Qing. The young lady's voice was soft and it was still that tender tone. But when it fell into Tong Zi Qing's ears, it was like a huge bell, pounding heavily into her heart. I don't know what happened between you and the World Group, or perhaps there's some misunderstanding. But, you must remember, you're a member of the World Group. No matter what you or your group leader did, you must be firm and believe in one thing. The World Group is a family. You are brothers. The young lady's words were soft and didn't sound too serious. However, it made Tong Ziqing's heart beat rapidly. She met Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes in a daze. There seemed to be something surging in his eyes. Yi Qing Luo met Tong Zi Qing's gaze as her brows arched, revealing a gentle smile. Why, how did you? How did he know what she was worried about, what she was worried about? Yi Qing Luo tilted her head, her smile was still as gentle as before, previously listening to those two elders' words, plus. Fourth Elder Jiang was holding on to the witchcraft puppet which could control your group leader. So, I can roughly guess what happened. But I think, no matter what happened, You guys are a team, a family. I believe that as a family, no matter what happens, we will understand each other. Tong Ziqing's beautiful eyes, which had always been cold, reddened slightly. She pursed her lips. She clenched her fists so tightly that her fingertips turned white. After a long while, the corners of her lips twitched, forming a smile that even she herself might not have been aware of. I understand. She smiled as she opened her mouth, her eyes surging with emotions. Thank you. Saying that, she had already speedily headed out of the cave. Yiqing Luo kept looking at Tong Ziqing. Naturally, she didn't miss it. At the instance when the woman turned around, indistinctly, she saw the corner of the woman's eyes. Chapter 5005. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her pink lips curled upwards. Sister. Jiang Ziyi popped his little head out from the side, his sparkling eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo. You're really amazing, you're not afraid of the dark void hall at all. On the little fellow's face, there was no longer the panic and fear that he had shown in the Anshu hall. That pair of sparkling eyes made Yiqing Luo recall Feng Shi, that fellow. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. If you're afraid, you wouldn't have come looking for me, isn't it? She paused for a moment, then reached out and rubbed the little fellow's head. You're great too. When you were in the Anshu hall, you weren't afraid at all. Actually, I'm very scared. Jiang Zi lowered his head in embarrassment. But when I think of Big Sister, Big Brother, and Big Sister Qing, no matter how scared I am, I will endure it. His dirty little face revealed a trace of envy. Big Brother and Big Sister are so awesome, and he blinked his eyes and was filled with curiosity. Sister is also a member of the world group? Yiqing Luo asked. Why would you ask that? Because, when Big Sister was talking about the world group to Big Sister Qing, she was very, very gentle, as though there was light in her eyes. He clenched his fists. I also wish to join the world group. The world group is merely a lower realm mercenary group. Do you want to join? Yiqing Luo looked at the little fellow's yearning gaze as she couldn't help but tease him. Jiang Zi's little face was serious. No matter what realm mercenary group the world group is from, the fact that the world group is able to appear in God Realm and fight against Ensu Hall for the sake of God Realm's peace means that we are warriors of justice. Justice knows no boundaries. I wish to join the world group and learn from the brothers and sisters of the world group. In the future, I'll be eradicating evil for the people and helping the weak. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect you to be such a hot-blooded youngster, wanting to be a good person, in this world. The strong were respected. Power reigned supreme. There was actually such a pure-hearted child. To be a good person, what a good person. Yiqing Luo's curly long lashes drooped slightly as her brows revealed a slight smile. Yes, I want to be a good person like Big Sister. The little guy's eyes were sparkling. He smiled and said sincerely, I am a good person. Yiqing Luo rarely heard anyone use the word good person to evaluate her. She never thought of herself as a good person. However, whether she was good or bad depended on the person. For Jiang Zi, save Long Yunzhan. He fought against the Anshu Hall. He was definitely a good person. But to those from the Anshu Hall, it was nothing. She was definitely a bad person. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but rub his head. Then, when the world group's brothers and sisters come over, tell them to see if they can enter the world group. Can I? Jiang Zi's eyes suddenly lit up like the stars in the sky. If it's you, it might really be possible. Yiqing Luo patted his delicate shoulder, but before this, you must cultivate well to make yourself stronger. In this way, you will be able to protect the people you want to protect. The people from the world group came very quickly. About 4 hours after Tong Ziqing sent out the signal. The large army had already arrived at the slums in a grandiose manner. Is Ziqing really in such a place? This place. Is Ziqing used to staying here? Is group leader together with Ziqing? Why did Ziqing suddenly send us a signal? Has she met with danger? Chapter 5006. Quickly search, see where Ziqing is. This lass, every time she gets into trouble, she's always shouldering it by herself. She doesn't know what use us brothers are. A large group of people were clamoring. Footsteps echoed throughout the entire slums. There's someone over here. Suddenly, someone cried out in shock. The few of them rushed over. Standing in front of one of the caves was a pretty young lady dressed in a pink dress. At this moment, she was smiling and waving at them. We meet again, everyone. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were stunned when they saw who it was. Madam Qiao. Why is it you? Yes, it's me. Yiqing Luo tried her best to maintain her persona as she smiled coquettishly. I didn't expect us to meet again so soon. Qiao Jin's breathtakingly handsome face congealed slightly. His gaze swept the surroundings, and his tone was somewhat subtle. Madam Qiao, why are you here? Because, I'm the one who asked you to come over. Yiqing Luo saw the vigilance in Qiao Jin's eyes as she purposely curled her lips innocently. Qiao Jin's expression congealed as expected. The few brothers behind him had already rushed forward. What did you do to Ziqing? Yiqing Luo's fair fingers propped her chin as her smile revealed a hint of laziness. If I did anything to her, what do you intend to do? Her slender eyes rose slightly. Kill me? You. Yan Xiaoyi's face turned chilly as she held a blue gleaming crescent-shaped sickle in her hand as she was about to charge towards Yiqing Luo. Xiaoyi. Qiao Jin hurriedly held her waist as he pulled her back. Don't act rashly. This young lady's ability couldn't be seen. But based on her arrogance, it was impossible for her to win. Her profound grade was definitely not low. Especially this young lady's husband. That young and tender-looking man who had no battle power at all. He was the real terrifying person. Why are you stopping me for? I want to take revenge for Ziqing. Yan Xiaoyi struggled. Qiao Jin's strength was huge as he held onto Yan Xiaoyi tightly. That pair of profound eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo. Madam Qiao, between us, there doesn't seem to be any deep hatred, right? That's right. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. Then, Qiao Jin's tone deepened. Where is Ziqing? Can you tell us? Ziqing, Yiqing Luo tilted her head. Make a guess. Mu Yu. The other brothers of the world group could no longer suppress their anger. Madam Qiao, stop messing around. A cold voice came from within the cave. A woman dressed in coarse clothes that couldn't hide her elegance slowly walked out. When he saw the brothers of the world group, the woman's eyes reddened. Ziqing. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were overjoyed as they pounced towards Tong Ziqing. One must know that ever since Long Yunzhan's witchcraft goo took effect and his identity as a member of the Nether Palace was exposed, they had never seen Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing had been avoiding them because of Long Yunzhan. Now, they had finally met. Tong Ziqing and the bunch of sisters hugged each other as her gaze looked helplessly towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Madam Qiao just loves to joke around, don't take it to heart. Yiqing Luo's crafty fox-like eyes curved. If I don't say this, how can I let you know that towards you? How much they care about you, how much they value you. Chapter 5007. Tong Ziqing went into a slight blank as her cold face was dyed with a blush which she had never seen before. The young lady's pink lips curled slightly as she continued with a smile. If there's any conflict or misunderstanding as a family, just talk it out face to face. What's the situation? Qiao Jin looked at the two ladies smiling at each other as he was still in a daze. Tong Ziqing walked towards Qiao Jin as a warm smile surfaced on her cold face. Because of my relationship with group leader, I've caused a lot of trouble for everyone, I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? This isn't your or group leader's fault. Yan Xiaoyi took a big step forward as she hooked onto Tong Ziqing's arm. This is all secluded palace's fault. Moreover, we're a family, so what's right or wrong? You silly lass, surely it's not because you feel guilty towards us so. That's why you've been avoiding us, right? Tong Ziqing lowered her head in embarrassment, which was considered as tacit agreement. Luckily you still have some brains and now you know to contact us automatically. Yan Xiaoyi used her little fist as she punched Tong Ziqing's shoulder. Say it, contacting us automatically. Is it because you miss us or you need our help? They were all brothers who had experienced life and death together. There was no need for any words. They could easily know each other's thoughts. Yan Xiaoyi and the others being able to reunite with Tong Ziqing was a joyous matter. But being in God realm, which was such a dangerous place, the joy of reuniting had to be delayed temporarily. Missing you is one reason. Tong Ziqing's brows revealed some melancholy. Secondly, I'm the one who asked her to contact you. Yiqing Luo interrupted Tong Ziqing's words as she continued, I know who you're looking for in God realm. The world group's expressions congealed. Pairs of vigilant eyes shot straight towards Yiqing Luo. The young lady's picturesque brows curved like a crescent moon as she didn't put their vigilance in her heart. She was still smiling lazily and leisurely. Madam Chow, what do you mean by this? Xiao Jin was the first to adjust his expression as his handsome brows rose slightly as he asked. Yiqing Luo smiled. Last night when I followed Ziqing to Dark Void Hall to save your group leader, I heard some news. The young lady of the Feng family seems to have exposed her whereabouts because of your pursuit. The power above the Anshu Hall, that dark nether palace, seems to have sent people to follow that Miss Feng. As soon as the girl finished speaking, the faces of the world group's members turned cold. Nonsense. Bei Ming Lu was the first to lose her composure as she stared at Yiqing Luo with her eyes wide open in disbelief. We've always been careful when we do things. How could we possibly be discovered by the secluded palace? This is the God realm, not the lower realm. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. Her long and narrow eyes revealed a hint of coldness. Her pink lips curled up carelessly. No matter what, we have a common enemy. I also don't wish for you all to die at the hands of the Anshu Hall. Does Madame Chow have any evidence? Xiao Jin was still considered calm as he put on a cold expression while looking at Yiqing Luo, as though he was trying to find other traces from Yiqing Luo's face. Yiqing Luo's picturesque face didn't have the slightest fluctuation of emotions. I don't have any evidence. After all, I just heard it casually. If you don't believe me, then don't believe me. You. The world group and the others still wanted to say something. But they heard Tong Ziqing's cold and melodious voice, as it firmly rang, I believe you. Seventh young miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh young miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5008. Tong Ziqing's cold and beautiful eyes looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking. I believe in Madame Chow. If it wasn't for Madame Chow, I'm afraid last night Commander and I would have died in the Dark Void Hall. It was Madame Chow and her husband. They saved me and Captain together. The corners of Tong Ziqing's mouth faintly curled upwards, revealing a sincere smile. Moreover, Madame Chow didn't ask me to contact you just because I overheard those words in the Anshu Hall. Instead, it was for Commander. Leader? Xiao Jin looked at Tong Ziqing. How is the guild leader now? Not good. Tong Ziqing shook her head. He hasn't had his own consciousness for a very, very long time. Everyone fell silent when he saw Long Yunzhan before. Long Yunzhan was still conscious. Knew to warn them. He even knew to go easy on them. But now, it had been a long time since he had self-awareness. This also meant that the shaman goo in Long Yunzhan's body had already penetrated deep into his bones and blood. If this continued, I'm afraid their leader would never be able to wake up. Xiao Jin pursed his lips as he pondered for a moment, and his vision shot towards Yiqing Luo. Madame Chow, do you have any good ideas? Yan Xiaoyi and the rest still wanted to say something. But when he saw the young girl's lips curled up slightly and her emotions were unclear as she looked at Xiao Jin. For some reason, they stopped what they wanted to say. For some reason, somehow, he felt that this young girl exuded a familiar sense of trust. I don't have any good ideas. Yi Qing Luo spread out her fair little hand. In her palm was a human-shaped puppet, but there is a solution. This is, the world group and the others crowded forward as they stared at the witchcraft doll. The carving of the puppet was extremely lifelike. Everyone could tell at a glance who this wooden puppet was. Commander? Yan Xiaoyi stared at the witchcraft puppet. What is this? Why? Commander? The thing in your commander's body is the heart-devouring parasite, right? Yi Qing Luo put on an unfathomable tone. This kind of parasite is too sinister and the person who poisoned it is needed to cure it, so you have to go to the witchcraft family and find the person who cast the goo and cure him. If we don't hurry up, I'm afraid. Everyone understood Yi Qing Luo's unfinished words. At that moment, their expressions changed slightly. It was not easy for them to reach the god world. To search and then leave, to go to the witchcraft family. But Yi Qing Luo had yet to be found. They hadn't had the chance to help Yi Qing Luo at all. Was he leaving just like that? He seemed to have seen through their thoughts. Yi Qing Luo's eyes became much gentler and her voice also softened. This is a witchcraft puppet that can sense the heart-devouring parasite. Bring this witchcraft puppet to the family and find the person who planted the parasite. With this, it will be very easy to cure the parasite. She paused for a moment. However, whether or not the person who planted the goo will be able to remove the goo is up to you. She dares not to cure our captain's goo? Yan Xiaoyi's pretty face turned cold. Cure the goo, I'm going to make her fall. Do you really think that the world group is easy to bully? Baiming Lulu patted her on the shoulder and looked towards Yi Qing Luo. How did you know? Seeing this thing, how could I not know? Yi Qing Luo waved the witchcraft puppet in her hands, towards this parasite poison. I have some interest so I learned a little. I can help to cure the small parasite but this kind of heart-devouring parasite, I can only go to the witchcraft family. Chapter 5009. Yi Qing Luo stuffed the witchcraft puppet into Xiao Jin's hand. You must take good care of this puppet. This is the key to saving him. Xiao Jin gazed deeply at the witchcraft puppet in his palm, as he slowly tightened his grip. Yi Qing Luo turned her head and walked into the cave. The others looked at each other in dismay. Following that, they followed in. The cave wasn't big to begin with. It was instantly filled with people, as it seemed a little crowded. Jiang Zi was so frightened that he shrank behind Dmo Xian. The man sat on a stone bench by the side. Beside him was a table which was so broken that it seemed as though it would fall apart with a light bump. A bamboo-colored long robe, a seemingly innocent and tender man. Just sitting there. It caused this poor cave to look a little more noble. As though the stone bench he was sitting on was made out of the finest white jade. When the crowd saw Dmo Xian, that face was clearly very young and pure. That pair of gem-like eyes, pure and clean. But the crowd, inexplicably, felt deep veneration for him. The crowd quietened down. Until they saw Long Yunzhan, who was lying in the straw with a pale face and a pained expression. They had forgotten about the pressure in the air. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest rushed to the side of the straw as they squatted down, looking at Long Yunzhan. What happened to group leader? Yesterday when we were saving him at Dark Void Hall. Dark Void Hall's elder used the witchcraft puppet to deplete group leader's profound energy. Tong Ziqing explained, as her long eyelashes drooped slightly. If we don't get rid of the goo quickly, I'm worried group leader won't be able to make it. Let's head to the lower realm immediately. Yan Xiaoyi clenched her fists tightly, as her pretty face revealed a chilly intent. Don't be anxious. Yi Qing Luo walked to Dmo Xian's side, holding his hand as she sat beside him. The young girl held the man's slender, jade-like hand as she raised her head to look at Xiao Jin. Don't forget what I said. Right now, all of you have already been targeted by the people from the Dark Void Hall. Or perhaps, it's that power above the Dark Void Hall, the Dark Void Palace, that has targeted you. If you leave with your captain just like that, the people from the Palace of Darkness might take back the goo puppet and the captain before you even reach the lower worlds. The young lady's words made the world group and the others turn silent. After a while, Xiao Jin asked, "What method does Lady Qiao have?" "I suggest, Yun has a jade pendant that can absorb people into a warm jade to nourish them, but it won't last long, at most half a month. I can lend you this jade pendant. You can take it with you and secretly head to the witchcraft family." Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard that. If there really was such a warm jade, it would naturally be the best. Madame Qiao's words were not without reason. The people from the Palace of Darkness were definitely watching them from the dark. Just like that, they carried Long Yunzhan out of the God world. He would definitely be captured by the Palace of Darkness. With this jade pendant, it would be much more convenient. Xiao Jin raised his eyebrows. "What is your request?" "I'm hiring you to protect my safety." Yiqing Luo's narrow eyes curved. "I'm now on the Dark Void Hall's wanted list, so it's more dangerous if you're here to protect me, then I don't need to be afraid." When Xiao Jin heard this request, he was slightly stunned. He looked past Yiqing Luo, as he looked towards Dmo Xian. This man's ability was unfathomable. With him around, did he need the world group's protection? Yiqing Luo only smiled, as she had no intention to reply. Chapter 50:10. In any case, we have the jade pendant. Some of you, bring your captain to the witchcraft family to look for him. And the other part is to follow me and my husband responsible for our safety, that's all. Yiqing Luo paused for a moment, as though she was pondering over something. "Oh right, you only need to follow me to the entrance of the Devil region and you'll have completed your mission." Everyone in the world group turned silent. To be honest, they had just arrived in the God world. Before he met Yiqing Luo, he didn't want to leave like this. However, the matter regarding the regiment commander couldn't wait much longer. Under the surveillance of the Abyss Palace. Separate them. Wasn't that even more dangerous? If the Palace of Darkness suddenly attacked, Yiqing Luo didn't urge them to give an answer. "My husband and I. After we have settled the matter at Dark Void Hall tomorrow, we will set off. By then you can give me an answer." In the slums. Because of the world group's arrival, it was much livelier. Not knowing if it was because the Jiang family's elder was injured, or because they were afraid of Dmo Xian's prestige. It was because Yiqing Luo had made Jiang Ziyi to poison her. In short, the people from the Dark Void Hall did not come to the slums to cause trouble. In order to maintain her persona, Yiqing Luo did not fall off the horse. He tried his best to avoid being alone with them. He directly pulled Dmo Xian along and randomly searched for other slum dwellers' cave dwellings, leaving the time for the few of them to interact with each other. The entire slum had been massacred by the Anshu Hall. There were a lot of empty spaces. How does it feel to see your own brother in front of you, but not be able to recognize him? The man's low and playful voice rang out from behind her. Before Yiqing Luo could turn back, she was already locked into the man's arms. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, probably like, "I'm in disguise right in front of you, but I can't recognize you." "I don't like this analogy." The man raised his eyebrows slightly. "Can they compare to me?" That matter-of-fact tone made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. "You're jealous of them?" The man grabbed her shoulders and turned her around. He held her chin with his slender fingers. "But, you're wrong about one thing. No matter what you become, I will recognize you at first sight." The man's clear and hoarse voice was like smoke, drifting into the girl's heart. It instantly struck the soft spot in her heart. Yiqing Luo's brows curved as her hands hooked onto his neck. Dmo Xian embraced her and placed her on the stone bench. Then, he lowered his head and buried it on her shoulder. His tone was a little dissatisfied. It's not easy for me to be alone with you, but you're going to bring a bunch of people and disturb our peace." His tone was filled with resentment and grievance. It reminded Yi Qing Luo of the feeling of a large loyal dog. She stretched out her little hand and stroked the man's head. She laughed softly and said, "I also want to be alone with you. But if we don't do this, they won't be able to leave the God realm." She sighed softly and wrapped her arms around the man's neck. "The people from the Palace of Darkness have their eyes on them. I saved them yesterday, and at this time, most of their troops are running down to the lower realm. The Palace of Darkness will definitely guess the reason, and if we let a portion of them descend to the lower realms and leave a portion of them in the immortal realm, I'm afraid they'll go look for Miss Feng. By then, the thing that we're worried about will still happen." The young lady raised her head and used her head to rub against him. "Only by letting them follow me, the person who is being watched closely by the Palace of Darkness, will they be safe." Chapter 50:11. "But on the other hand, you won't be safe." Dmo Xian's tone was slightly sunken. "That's right. They might be safe. But because of the world group, the majority of the troops were on her side. It would only make the secluded palace take notice of her after she had disguised herself. Both of their goals: to search for the God Emperor's tomb based on the profound flame heaven's pivot map. The secluded palace's people noticed them. Why would they need to disguise themselves? Their aim of searching for the God Emperor's tomb would also be obstructed. Even if they're not around. After this mess from Dark Void Hall, I'm afraid the secluded palace will not let me off easily." Yi Qing Luo said, "Based on the secluded palace's suspicious character, perhaps if I bring them along, it might make their imagination run wild, making blind guesses, and it's easy to guess wrongly." The young lady's pink lips curled upwards as her little hand rubbed the man's head fiercely. She rubbed the man's black hair till it was messy before she stopped. "Moreover, you're here," the young lady's tender voice had a tinge of coquettishness in it. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk slightly as his slender jade-like hand poked the young lady's face. "This trick again? Who taught you to act coquettishly?" "Seeing you, I figured it out on my own." Yi Qing Luo's slender eyes curved as she raised her fair little hand and held the man's hand which was poking her face. "My dear husband, don't you like me to act coquettishly with you?" "I like it, but..." The man's eyes deepened. "Aren't I being eaten up by you? Don't tell me that husband isn't willing to be eaten up by me?" Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her tone raised. "My honor." The man's slender and powerful arms suddenly tightened as he pressed her into his embrace. Outside the cave, the figure who was about to enter the cave heard the conversation inside. He silently retracted his leg as he turned around to leave. He had just taken 10 oversteps. A person walked towards her. "Xiao Yi, what's the matter? Have you found Madame Chow?" Yan Xiaoyi's expression was a little complicated. When Xiao Jin saw that, he pulled her into his embrace as he asked warmly, "Why do you look so terrible?" "Ah, Jin." Yan Xiaoyi buried her head in his chest and said in a clear voice, "Let's listen to Mu Yu and split into 2 groups." "What did she say to you?" Xiao Jin gently patted her shoulder. Yan Xiaoyi shook her head and then nodded. "What she said should be true. Secluded Palace's people are currently searching for Qing Luo's whereabouts, and if we really went to look for Qing Luo, it would easily expose what Qing Luo wanted to do. But, if we follow Mu Yu, it seems like we will implicate Mu Yu as well." She lowered her head and wrapped her arms tightly around Xiao Jin's waist. In a concise and comprehensive manner, he recounted the conversation between Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian which he had eavesdropped on earlier. Perhaps it was because Yan Xiaoyi was too familiar with Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian. So much so that her approach. Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian didn't discover anything. That Madame Chow. Just why would she help us? Xiao Jin listened to Yan Xiaoyi's words and was somewhat puzzled. Yan Xiaoyi shook her head. "But I still feel that she is very familiar. Now that things have come to this, we can only do according to what she said." Xiao Jin sighed softly as he gently pulled apart the distance between the both of them. Xiao Yi, I intend to go look for Guiyu teacher first. You. Yen Xiao Yi suddenly raised her head. You want to escort group leader to the lower realm? Right. Xiao Jin took out the witchcraft puppet as he stared deeply at the puppet and said, Guiyu teacher and I will bring some people back first. You bring another group of people and stay by Madame Chao's side, and at the same time find out about Qing Luo's news. Chapter 50-12. Yen Xiao Yi wanted to say something, but looking at Xiao Jin's solemn and serious expression, she eventually pursed her lips tightly. Her little hands hugged Xiao Jin's waist tightly. You must be careful. Escorting group leader to the lower realm. They would definitely have to go head to head with Gloomy Palace. If Gloomy Palace used any sinister tricks, they would definitely be hurt. Even with Guiyu Fu teacher accompanying them, she was still very worried. You're the one who needs to be careful. Xiao Jin sighed softly as he kept the puppet and hugged the woman's shoulder tightly. Madame Chao's side is not peaceful at all. There's still Dark Void Hall eyeing her covetously. He lowered his head slightly as his voice was very low, using a voice that only the two of them could hear as he spoke with difficulty. If you really meet with life-threatening danger, you must. Ah, Jin. Yen Xiao Yi called out, interrupting Xiao Jin's unfinished words. The woman's delicate face lifted up from his arms as her brows sunk. Impossible. The world group's people are definitely not people who are afraid of death. Since we've made a deal with Sunset Rain, then we should abide by our mutual cooperation. This is the world group's first mission in God Realm. No matter what, I will not abandon Sunset Rain and escape on my own. The woman's voice was sonorous and powerful, unwavering. Xiao Jin's unfinished words were stuck in his throat. His extraordinary good-looking face had a complicated expression. After meeting the woman's unwavering gaze for a moment, as though admitting defeat, he heaved a long sigh. He lowered his head as his forehead was facing Yen Xiaoyi's forehead. It's me. No, I shouldn't let the world group carry a bad reputation because of my personal feelings. I know, you're worried about me. Yen Xiaoyi's cherry lips curled upwards as her little hand patted his back lightly. I will take good care of myself. After all, I promised you that I will accompany you back to Huangfu family. The next day, the teams were quickly divided. Xiao Jin brought Long Yunzhan, who had already entered the warm jade to recuperate, as well as 7 members of the world group, to search for Guiyu Fu teacher before heading towards the lower realm's aristocratic family. On Yen Xiaoyi's side, she brought Bei Ming Lu, Ni Roa Pan, Mo Yuing and Xiao Yinyan to escort Morning Clouds and Sunset Rain couple towards the Devil region. After Yi Qing Luo's reminder, Xiao Jin's group of 8 found a lot of old clothes in the slums and changed into them. Smear some messy dirt on your face. Oh, dirt. After all, the world group's brothers were too good-looking. When this group of people walked out, it was really too eye-catching. He had to make himself look a little more pathetic. At the very least, it wouldn't attract the attention of people with ulterior motives. Whereas for Yi Qing Luo's side, they continued to maintain their grandeur. As for Jiang Zi, it was brought along by Yi Qing Luo. After all, this child still had his family, and everyone in the slums. There would be a bloodbath. The main reason was because they wanted to save Long Yunzhan. As Long Yunzhan's brother and half a master, Yi Qing Luo had the obligation to protect Jiang Ziyi's safety. After the teams were divided, the 2 teams parted ways. After leaving the slums, Yi Qing Luo didn't leave in time. Instead, he swaggered into the nearby big city. Aren't you still on the Anshu Hall's kill list? If we enter the city like this, Anshu Hall. Yen Xiaoyi's expression was one of worry. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard the surrounding commoners discussing spiritedly. Have you heard about the Anshu Hall's matter? What matter? It's almost spread throughout the entire God realm and you actually don't know about it? Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 50:13. I heard that the Jiang family's branch force in our city is the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall. Someone couldn't help but sigh. As expected of the Jiang family's power, they directly gave the branch to them as their headquarters. That's not the point. The informant lowered his voice and continued to speak mysteriously. Let me tell you, I don't know who it was, but someone found out about the Dark Void Hall's headquarters and poisoned it. Now, at least half of the people in the Dark Void Hall's headquarters have been poisoned. Ha ha ha, only the heavens will punish the wicked. They've done all kinds of evil, and now they're finally getting their retribution. Shoo, don't speak so loudly. If the remaining people of the Dark Void Hall hear it, it'll be a mess again. Everyone immediately sighed. With their strength, it wasn't that they couldn't fight with the Dark Void Hall. It was just that the Dark Void Hall was despicable and shameless, and their bandit-like behavior made them too lazy to bother with villains. And entangled with villains. In the end, they were the unlucky ones. Couldn't they just hide from them? It was better to keep the Dark Void Hall open. However, even if everyone suppressed their excitement, there were also many people who were talking about this matter everywhere. It was probably the Jiang family's branch force, early in the morning, heard heart-wrenching screams. Such screams. When outsiders saw that it was the Jiang family's branch force, they couldn't care too much. This might be some special hobby of these nobles. Then, it was afternoon. He recruited a large number of doctors to go there. Then, the people of the Dark Void Hall rushed to all parts of the city, capturing doctors everywhere. As long as they knew a little bit of medical knowledge, they were captured and brought to the Jiang family's branch. This matter was very big. At that moment, everyone understood what was going on. So this Jiang family's branch was the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall. Early this morning, there were many practitioners of the Dark Void Hall, one by one, who inexplicably fell to the ground during their morning exercises. And their whole body twitched and hurt badly. One by one, they screamed endlessly. After noon, there were even more people who had fallen. Even the two elders, Lu Sanzong and Lvni, didn't escape. Basically, 2/3 of Dark Void Hall's profound practitioners had fallen to the ground. And among the dozens of doctors who were captured and brought to the aristocratic branch of the Jiang clan, after feeling his pulse, none of them could find out what exactly was wrong with him. When the healers saw the people of Anshu Hall lying on the ground in pain, they felt very satisfied. However, in the face of such a difficult and complicated disease, the fact that they couldn't figure out the cause of the illness also piqued their interest. One by one, they began to investigate. A doctor asked when this situation started. With such a deduction, the healers understood. He was poisoned. It was only after breakfast or lunch that everyone began to collapse to the ground in agony. Obviously, there was a problem with the food. Lu Sanzong was convulsing in pain. When he heard the doctor's speculations, he gritted his teeth and ordered them to kill everyone in the kitchen. The Jiang clan's noble branch hall. No, it should be called the Dark Void Hall's headquarters now, was instantly dyed in blood. But after this, a doctor discovered that there was a problem with the well next to the kitchen. They scooped up the water, and a group of doctors surrounded him to examine him. Then, as expected, he discovered the well water contained an unknown drug. But it was the same as those who collapsed to the ground. What was the drug in the well water that couldn't be found at all? Finding out the source could prevent more people from being poisoned. Chapter 50:14. But this poison, what medicinal herb was it made from and how to detoxify it? A group of doctors were still in the midst of research. After that, not knowing how this news spread out from Dark Void Hall's headquarters. After all, this was a piece of news that everyone was happy about. This spread from 1 to 10, 10 to 100. Even the neighboring city had heard of this matter. All of them didn't show it on their faces. But secretly, they were almost clapping their hands in joy, listening to those people's discussions. The expressions on Yan Xiaoyi and the others were all complicated. All the worried words earlier were stuck in their throats. So, she had long known that such a thing had happened at Dark Void Hall. That was why she dared to appear in the city so brazenly. Because the current Dark Void Hall, they couldn't even take care of themselves. How could they care about the morning clouds and evening rain couple on the assassination order? Jiang Ziyi, who had been obediently following beside the team, suddenly jumped towards Yiqing Luo. Until he stopped beside Yiqing Luo, he then raised his little head, his eyes sparkling as he looked at Yiqing Luo. Sister Yu, is it? Is it? Although Jiang Ziyi was young. But he also knew that he shouldn't say the latter words. After all, there were people around him. If anyone heard it, it would easily cause trouble. Although Jiang Ziyi's words were not completed, but Yiqing Luo still understood the question he wanted to ask. The young lady's charming eyes slightly curved, slightly bent down, stretched out her hand and caressed Jiang Ziyi's little head, nodding, "N." The little fellow's eyes became brighter and brighter. His little body was so agitated that it kept trembling. Then they. It's me. It's me. The poison which was poured into the well water was personally poured by him. Those poisoned Dark Void Hall cultivators were personally poisoned by him. Yiqing Luo nodded again, slightly suppressing her voice as she asked with a light smile, "Zi, are you afraid now? Those people, in another 1 or 2 days, will all die one by one." Jiang Ziyi's age wasn't old. His hands were already stained with blood so quickly. If he wasn't willing, Yiqing Luo wouldn't force him. So, the poison she chose was a slow poison. After suffering for 1 or 2 days, they would slowly breathe their last. When the little fellow heard this, the smile on his face and the light in his eyes flickered and wavered. Yiqing Luo didn't have much emotions. Her lips curled up slightly as she fished out a small medicine bottle from her ring. "This is the antidote, if..." "Pa." The little guy suddenly reached out and took the medicine bottle. Then, he fell heavily to the ground. The transparent liquid stained the ground. After doing this, Jiang Zi gasped for air. Then, she stubbornly raised her little head, her eyes shining with determination. "No. I don't want the antidote." The little fellow's eyes were filled with anger. Those people deserved it. They deserved to die. Now that they are dead, I will avenge my parents and everyone in the slums. I will not be soft-hearted. This is what they deserve. The child gritted his teeth and spat out the words one by one. It was a tiny figure. But between his brows, there was already the demeanor of a grown-up man. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly, as she satisfyingly pressed his head. "You did the right thing. They're dead and you've saved even more people." She wanted to bring Jiang Ziyi along by her side. She wanted to teach Jiang Ziyi how to grow. After experiencing the destruction of his family, this was what he needed to learn to be strong. And in this kind of god realm where the strong were revered, most of the Nether Palace's forces had already infiltrated. He must understand. Chapter 50-15. Protect yourself. He understood how to control his fate in his own hands. Jiang Ziyi clenched his fists tightly, his eyes were slightly red as he looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking and spoke seriously. "Sister Yu, thank you." The little boy's crisp voice was filled with sincerity. Yiqing Luo curled her lips sweetly as she rubbed his little head and straightened her body. She had returned to the side of the man who would not even let a child's jealousy go. Unknowingly, he was soothing a certain big vinegar jar. A conversation between an adult and a child. This allowed Yan Xiaoyi and the others to understand. The incident at the headquarters of the Anshu Hall was indeed related to Lady Sunset Rain. No wonder she had to wait until today to take action. He even had to make a trip to the city. Just to confirm it. Did the people from the Anshu Hall fall for it? This girl called Sunset Rain, he really couldn't be underestimated. Yan Xiaoyi secretly made up her mind. They had to complete this mission seriously and escort the couple safely to the infernal domain. He absolutely could not become enemies with these two people. If Yiqing Luo knew what Yan Xiaoyi was thinking right now. I guess I'll have to sigh at my amazing acting skills again. Even the World Group's brothers who understood her so well were completely unable to detect her true identity. In that case, Yiqing Luo was even more relieved. The dark secluded palace definitely wouldn't be able to detect her identity in a short period of time. The group was extremely conspicuous on the street. In addition, Jiang Zi's smashing of the bottle was a little noisy. Soon, it attracted the attention of many people. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian had no intention to conceal it. He generously allowed everyone to look at him. Everyone saw it with a glance. Wasn't this the person on the Anshu Hall's kill order? They actually dared to appear directly in the city. Weren't they afraid that someone from the Anshu Hall would show up and capture them? Even now, the Anshu Hall had poisoned a large number of people. But at least a portion of them, as well as the members of the Anshu Hall scattered throughout the God realm, were still safe and sound. Looking at how calm and composed they were, Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh. Everyone couldn't help but speculate. Such a big thing had happened in the Anshu Hall. Could it be the doing of the two people on the bounty order? Everyone was thinking. Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted, "Not good, the people from Anshu Hall are here. Look at the team in front. The people from Anshu Hall are coming over aggressively. I'm afraid they're here to capture you. Let's get out of the city from here." Amidst the hubbub of discussions, everyone made way for Yiqing Luo and the rest to leave. But Yiqing Luo stood at the same spot without any intention to move. She curled her pink lips slightly and nodded at those people who were expressing their goodwill to show her gratitude. Then, he quietly waited where he was. "Muyu, aren't we leaving?" Yan Xiaoyi and the other four had already surrounded Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian in the middle, in a defensive stance. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and smiled at her. "Don't panic, I'm just afraid that they won't come." What was he planning? Yan Xiaoyi and the rest did not understand. But as a mercenary group that was hired, all they had to do was to protect their employer. Just as he was speaking, in front of him, there were already 20 to 30 people rushing over aggressively. The leader was a fiendish-looking man. When he saw Yiqing Luo, he drew out a long blade and pointed it at her. "It's you. It's you, right?" The moment the people from Anshu Hall appeared, the surrounding people had already avoided them. That long blade shone with a cold flowing light under the sunlight. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change as she faintly raised her brows, squinting at that person. Chapter 50-16. Aren't you from the Dark Void Hall? Why aren't you at the headquarters waiting for your master? Why are you behaving atrociously in front of me? The young lady's tone was calm, without a hint of panic. The leader's face was sinister as he stared at Yiqing Luo fiercely. "Last night only you sneaked into the Dark Void Hall headquarters. The poison in the well was planted by you." Yiqing Luo crossed her arms as she lazily leaned into Dmo Xian's arms. "What evidence do you have to prove that it's me? What evidence do you need? It's obviously you." The leader couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Yiqing Luo as he raised his long sword and slashed towards her. Around them, those 20 to 30 Dark Void Hall cultivators had already surrounded their team tightly in the middle. Basically, there was nowhere to escape. The leader made his move. The surrounding God Realm cultivators avoided him, in case they got involved in this troublesome matter. "Protect Muyu." A black light flashed in Yan Xiaoyi's hand as her slender fingers gripped the black scythe blade tightly as she stood in front of Yiqing Luo. The others swiftly stood in front of Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. The black scythe blade collided with the long sword. The leader took 2 steps back from the impact. The black profound wave vibrated in the air. Cha, that sharp long saber was actually broken into 2 pieces. The leader's hideous face twisted as his eyes widened with hatred. As though he couldn't believe it. This young lady in front of him actually broke his weapon in 1 strike. Yiqing Luo looked at the broken long sword on the ground as her pink lips rose slightly as she smiled lazily. You're so violent, it's more like guilty. The young lady smiled faintly as her voice was light. If you say it's me, then I'll say. It's you who wanted to get the position of Dark Void Hall's leader, so you deliberately poisoned the Dark Void Hall headquarters in an attempt to take the opportunity to rise up. You're talking nonsense. The leader's expression changed as he screamed in a sharp voice. If this kind of words were to be heard by someone with ulterior motives. No matter if he really had China in mind. He probably wouldn't be given an important position in the headquarters. Furthermore, if the leader also doubted his loyalty, he would probably kill it to prevent future troubles. This girl was too ruthless. Facing the leader of the group, he had a furious expression and a murderous gaze. Yiqing Luo didn't have the slightest fluctuation of emotions. She raised her pink lips and smiled calmly. It's just a few words. Who doesn't know how to say the truth? You. The leader was so angry that his entire body was trembling. His eyes glanced at the dozens of profound practitioners beside him. Go. Bring her back to the headquarters of the Anshu Hall and torture her until she hands over the antidote. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the young husband and wife stood there calmly and elegantly, leaning against each other. The 5 youths in front of him panted lightly, and their expressions were stern as they glared at the people in front of them. The only one left standing was the leader. Around them, lying on the ground, were profound practitioners dressed in the uniform of the Anshu Hall. Someone fainted. Someone was howling in pain. The leader was panting heavily as he stared incredulously at the group of young boys and girls in front of him as he retreated step by step. The 20 to 30 people he brought were helpless against this group of young people. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.